Good day, students. Today we're going to look at another practice question from your chapter 3 in your Math 1025 booklets. This is on page 69 of your practice, and this is exercise G. So it's asking us to subtract, add or subtract as indicated, and express the answer in simplest form. So obviously you can see this one is a subtraction example. Now again, we're in mixed numeral form, so we have to change to what we call improper fractions, right? So the first one, multiply these two, 3 times 16, 48, and add the 1 on top. That'll be 49 over 16, and again, just over on your calculator. So I did 3 times 16, right? Or 16 times 3, then add the numerator to get 49, right? Again, repeat that for the next one. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17 over 6. Now you're asked to combine them by subtracting or adding. Now we know in subtraction and addition we must have a common denominator to add or subtract. Right now our denominators are different. 6 and 16 totally different, okay? So how do we tackle this problem? Now one way is to use the LCD method, lowest common denominator, right? So that's least or lowest common denominator. Now how do we find the lowest or least common denominator? Well, we know how to find the least common multiple. It's the same thing. We do what's called a multiple list, okay? So the multiple list goes like this. If I want the multiples for 16, they would be, first of all, the lowest multiple of 16 is itself, and then keep adding 16 or multiplying by the next consecutive integer. 1 times 16 is 16. 2 times 16, or 16 plus 16 is 32. 3 times 16, alright, or keep adding 16, which is 48, and so on. Let's see if that's high enough. Let's start with 6. We got 6, and then the next multiple is 12, 18, 4 6s are 24, 5 6s are 30. Alright, 6 6s are 36, 7 6s 42, 8 6s, look at that, 48. So that's the lowest right there. The least common multiple is 48. Okay, so that means we have to change both fractions to something over 48, right? Something over 48. Now how do I change them both to over 48? We'll go back to the originals. What do I multiply 16 by to get 48? Well, it's the third in the multiple list, so 3 times 16 would be 48. And whatever you multiply the bottom by, you must multiply the top by, right? 3 times 49. Okay, just checking that on the calculator. 3 times 49. Of course, that's 147. So we write that here, 147. Now what do I multiply the 6 by? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 8th multiple, or 6 times 8 is 48. And of course I multiply the top by that as well. So 17 times 8. Enter. I get 136. Now I can subtract them. Now I can actually subtract the two. So 147 divided by 136. 140, or subtract, sorry, minus 136, which you can probably do in your head, and that's 11 over 48, and that does not reduce. So there's your final answer. Now we did that using what? We did that using common denominators found from a multiple list. Now when we got to this stage here, okay, when we got to this stage right here, okay, we could have used a calculator to find the lowest common denominator between 16 and 6. I'll show you how to do that once again. So math, okay, go across the number, I think it's number 8, LCM, lowest common multiple, lowest common denominator, same thing, 16 comma 6, and it would have generated for you. And then you could have done it that. So if you wouldn't have had to do the multiple list step if you wanted to skip this part here, right? So if you wanted to skip that part right here, so we don't have to do that if you're using the calculator to find the lowest common denominator. Now, we could also have done it another method. Okay, once we switch to, and I'll go over here now to the side, let me just draw a line down here to separate them. So we could have also used what some people call cross product method. So when you get here, 49 over 16, subtract 17 over 6. So when you get to that, okay, how do you tackle it? Well, cross product method for doing it is multiply these two to get a common denominator. So it will be 16 times 6. Now this is not a lowest. Notice I just said common denominator, right? So this would be 96. Then multiply this by 49. So 49 times 6. Subtract, and then 16 times 7. 16 times 17. Okay, so 49 times 6 is 294. Subtract 16 times 17, which is 272 over 96. Now the only thing about this method, numbers are often much larger to deal with because we didn't use the least common denominator. But still works. 294 subtract 272 leaves us with 22, and then 22 over 96, they're both even. So now you start reducing, and you must reduce to lowest terms. So I'll divide each by 2 as common at least. 22 divided by 2 leaves me with 11, and 96 divided by 2 is 48. So that method also works, and I think often referred to as cross product method. It does not use the least common denominator, so you have this extra reducing step here as well. So whatever method you prefer. Now let's just double check it all on the calculator. And again, anytime you're doing fractions on the calculator, use your shortcut to fraction, which is alpha and then y equals. First one is improper or proper fraction. Second one is mixed, so hit number 2. So we had 3 over to 1. Just use your arrow buttons to maneuver around each position, and then arrow again outside of that. Subtract 2. Oops, I forgot to get my, I'll delete that. Go back and get my fraction again, which is alpha, right? Y equals number 2. So I'm now into the other mixed fraction, 2 and 5 over 6, and enter. And it gives you the reduced answer of 1140 over 48. So there's adding or subtracting, an example of subtracting mixed numerals using a couple of methods plus the calculator. That's it for now.